Yes, Kath, those police raids you've been referring to throughout the morning on the offices of the Australian Workers' Union in Sydney and in Melbourne have triggered something of a parliamentary whodunit here today. Not the ordering of the raids, that was obviously the work of the union watchdog, the creatively titled Registered Organisations Commission. No, the whodunit actually revolves around other things like the blaze of media attention that surrounded the raids, who leaked, in whose interest was it to give such a tip-off, why does Bill Shorten always find himself at the centre of industrial investigations? And could the dark hand of political tacticians be behind the events of the last 24 hours or so? So between now and question time, we'll work through some of those questions and try to answer them for you. Let's start with Bill Shorten, though. He's feeling set upon by the forces of the state that the government has at its disposal. Labor's calling the raids a political witch hunt, and its leader asserts that nothing of substance will be found in those bagloads of documents scooped up from the union offices last night.
Quite frankly, the use of 30 AFP officers to collect documents, which, as the union has said, all they had to do was ring up, was an amazing waste of money. But we understand what this is about. Now, I have the greatest respect for the Australian Federal Police and its serving officers. What I don't respect is that the regulator, at the behest of the government, is conducting a political witch hunt designed to throw mud in the hope that some will stick. Now, I know that this government can keep digging and digging and digging, and they can keep wasting taxpayers' money right up to the next election. There's nothing of substance or foundation, and the Royal Commission established that.
Well, the government's playing hardball in response. The Prime Minister went to a rural village just outside Canberra to make a point about power prices and his NEG policy. The conversation soon turned to the police, the Registered Organisations Commission and Bill Shorten. Malcolm Turnbull's having nothing of the Labor leader's protestations.
The only smear is the smear Labor is trying to conduct against the Australian Federal Police. They are accusing the Australian Federal Police of being politically motivated. That is a disgrace. Bill Shorten knows that's a lie and he should apologise for it.
OK, so as a matter of process, the Minister in charge of the Federal Police gets some advance notice of sensitive operations before they occur. That's Michael Keenan, so we caught up with him before question time to check who else could have known about the raids and any political motivations the government could have. Well, Michael Keenan, as Justice Minister, you would have had some advance knowledge of the raids. What exactly did you know before they occurred?
Well, it's normal practice for the Australian Federal Police to inform me about what is going on with the agency, as they have done for every Justice Minister before me. But, Greg, can I say this is not actually the important issue. It's not the government who's on trial here. This is the opposition leader who has questions to answer, because apparently they believe that the union movement, the Labor Party and himself are not subject to the law. Now, nobody in Australia is above the law. The response to these raids, I think, has been hysterical from the Labor Party. The Australian Federal Police and the Commission should be able to go about their business without this form of political interference and intimidation.
But going about their business in an orderly and process-driven manner, I assume, is the outcome you would want. So when media appear to get advance notice and are camped out there to capture those images, that doesn't exactly speak of a clean, clear process, does it?
Well, this is the great distraction that the Labor Party has now been keen to put about over the past 12 hours or so, and the media just shouldn't fall for it. The fundamental issue here is in relation to the opposition leader, it's in relation to the union movement, it's in relation to that particular union. And the police, going about their job, have been roundly attacked by members of the Labor Party. I think that's appalling and they should apologise. The Commission, going about its job, has been roundly attacked by members of the Labor Party, and they are trying to intimidate these agencies out of upholding Australian law. Now, nobody is above the law in Australia, certainly nobody in this building. The law applies equally to all of us, as it does equally to Australian institutions.
And if that's the case, and we won't dwell too long on the process, but can you therefore guarantee, as everyone complies with the law, or seeks to, in this building, that no one in the government had leaked any information regarding this process.
Well, again, Greg, this is not the issue. This is part of the great distraction that the Labor Party is keen to put about.
But is that a guarantee you can make, that the government's hands are clean on this question?
Well, Greg, as I said, it's not the government that has questions to answer here, it's the Labor Party. And they apparently seem to think that the law doesn't apply to them and it doesn't apply to the union movement, and that when our agencies go about their business of upholding the law, that exposes them to attack and intimidation from the Labor Party. So look, they will come up with all sorts of wild allegations, they will come up with all sorts of wild attacks to distract from the main issue here. But of course, it's Bill Shorten and his colleagues who have questions to answer.
But were there to be leaks from this building, there'd be multiple points, wouldn't there? I mean, you and your office wouldn't be the only ones with advanced knowledge.
No, obviously, for an operation like this, there will be a lot of people that would have advance notice. But again, Greg, I mean, this is not the main issue here. Surely the main issue is actually the substance about what's going on.
No, it's just on the substance of that issue. Obviously, the government has a vital interest in the matter of Bill Shorten, the registered organisations commission. You pursued him through the Trade Union Royal Commission. So because of that enduring interest, a lot of people
I've really got to correct you there, Greg. The government has not pursued Bill Shorten through anything. There is institutions in this country that exist to uphold the law, and they are the ones that actually go about tracking down malfeasance as they see fit. Now, that is what has happened in this case, and that's what happened in the case of the Royal Commission. I mean, what are they suggesting? The government has fabricated evidence against them or something? Everyone needs to account for their behaviour, and they need to be able to say categorically that their behaviour is within Australian law. Now, our institutions, where they believe that behaviour has occurred that hasn't upheld that standard, are entitled to investigate it. And of course, I think all Australians would expect them to.
OK, let's go to the broader issue now of police resourcing within the AFP. You have a commander writing in an internal document that resources are under strain. They're struggling to fill vacant positions, according to the Commissioner yesterday. How important or how much of a strain are government buildings and the protection of them putting on operations?
Well, the AFP is a very busy agency. I mean, we're living through a very difficult national security circumstance. There's multiple criminal threats that are coming at Australia all the time, particularly in relation to the high price we pay for illicit drugs here that encourages drug gangs from all over the world to be involved in the Australian market. So the government is determined to work side by side with the AFP and others in the law enforcement community to give them the resources and the powers that they need to do this job. And
they don't appear to be able to fill they may have the money at their disposal, but they don't seem to have filled the vacant positions. Is that one of the issues here?
No, it's not. I mean, the AFP is very busy. I mean, obviously that places pressure on the organisation, but we're working with them to make sure they've got what they need, and I have 100% confidence in their ability to keep Australians safe. Just to give you an example, I mean, in the past 3 years, they have stopped 13 terror attacks on Australian soil. In the last calendar year, we've intercepted more illicit drugs than ever before in Australia's history. So they are very effective at what they are doing, and they're effective because the government has supported them.
And the guarding of government buildings arises simply because this commander did cite the Prime Minister's Point Piper residence as something that needs to be guarded. What's your explanation for how much of a resource distraction that premises is?
Well, that's always been part of the Australian Federal Police's responsibilities. They would have done the same thing for Kevin Rudd in Brisbane, the same thing for Julia Gillard in Altona. So the idea that something is happening here that hasn't happened before is just not right. Look, can I say to you though, always in relation to the security of Australian high office holders, the less said about this, the better. We don't telegraph the sorts of security arrangements that we have, and I would urge everyone in the building to remember that.
So you'd put it more in the category of an industrial grievance, would you? The documentation that was written by this commander? No,
look, I'm not characterising it like that. I mean, the AFP is certainly under pressure because they're a very, very busy agency, but we've given them what they need to do the job, and they're doing it incredibly well.
All right, Michael Keenan, thank you.
Nice to talk to you, Greg.
So Michaelia Cash, the employment